podcast, and welcome to Rock Book Show. And again, repeat offender, Marc Dolan.
Howdy, good to be here.
Thank you so much. Nice to have you back. A year ago, you were just Marc Dolan. Now you're Marc Dolan, superstar, author.
Hardly, but you were the best interview I had last year. So there we go.
Here's your 20 under the table. Well, this is Marc's book, lest you forget. This is Bruce Springsteen and the Promise of Rock and Roll, now out in paperback. Give everybody just a little overview, because this is a biography of Springsteen, obviously.
And yeah, it's a biography of Springsteen, less about the man than about the work. Really going, not even starting at the beginning of his life, but starting at the first time you saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. And originally I ended it at the end of the Working on the Dream tour, but this now goes up. There's a new chapter for the paperback that goes up to the 12-12-12 concert and takes it up to really last fall and everything that's happened along the way. 50 years of music, 50 years of other people's music, 50 years of American politics.
How cool is that to be able to go back into the paperback version and write this new chapter?
Well, it was great, because when I finished the original version, I was about 2 years, there was 2 years of life I hadn't written about. And when I went out to talk about the book last year, people were saying, what about the last 3 years? And the truth of it is, when you write something like this, you want it to be a story. And I didn't want to end with, and then he did other stuff. And what I thought was going to be the new ending, because people had asked for it, was when I opened with Twist and Shout, was going to be when he did with Paul McCartney, Twist and Shout at Hyde Park last year. But then Hurricane Sandy happened. And it just seemed like it brought together all the political themes, all the local themes, and then Christie gave me a great, penultimate page. And so it ties together a lot of what I wanted to say about what pop music can do, how politics is more than partisan, etc.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up the Christie stuff, because that was a big deal. If you were here in this area, especially,
exactly.
you know.
Exactly, and I'm from Jersey originally. I now live in Brooklyn, but literally people were stopping me at work saying, "So what about Christie, huh?" And it was an amazing moment, and I think, people have said, and I quote this in the book, some people were saying Springsteen won Obama the election, which I think isn't true, but he really brought out the best in the governor of that state, and I think it is proof that being a Springsteen fan can make you a better person than you would be otherwise.
I want to ask you two things, of course. But the first one, I want to just tell you, I recently rewatched the We Are the World making of video, and it's weird to see Bruce. I had a different image in my head, and then I rewatched it. Have you rewatched it recently?
I rewatched when I was doing the book, and it is. Well, it was a weird time in his life, and it was a weird thing in that moment, because he basically was the one person who showed up without an entourage, and just came in from the airport, flew an overnight flight, drove in, sang, and drove out. And the point I make in the book is that a lot of times it's more fun for him to sing on somebody else's record, because he is a control freak, than to be making his own record. And that's probably, he has adored black music his entire life. That's probably the largest group of black musicians he's ever performed with. I think it's the other reason you get to trade vocals like that, although it was done in the editing. Yeah. But you get to trade vocals like that with some people he'd listened to his entire life. And it's a vacation.
Yeah, it's really cool. He really took Quincy's sign seriously, leave your ego at the door.
Well, yeah. No, and also it was a strange time in his life, because that's just before he started dating his first wife. He may have been in and out of psychotherapy at that point. He wasn't serious about it. He was feeling Bruce fatigue before the rest of the world was feeling Bruce fatigue.
I want to ask you about Bruce fatigue, actually, because that kind of ties into what my other question was. Where is he at now? Is he kind of stuck, for lack of a better word, in this role of statesman, speaker of issues, or do people just want him to shut up and sing?
Less shut up and sing than he was in 2012. He was more welcomed than in 2004. In 2004, he was saying we all need to listen to each other, and nobody on the left or the right wanted to hear that. Now I think, Obama, I make the point in the book, his politics are very close to Obama's politics. They're not straight up left, and in a way they're very old-fashioned, given where a lot of the left is today. I don't think people want him to shut up and sing. I think he's stuck in that he is wondering what he's going to do next. I feel the most recent dates on the tour have been different than what they were like last year, and I think you're going to see something. I think he's going to be very quiet in 2014, and then you're going to see something he hasn't done before in 2015, because it's got that feel to it right now that, okay, I've run the course on this, Anybody who has not seen the E Street Band in this incarnation, I would advise you to do it now, because I don't think you'll be seeing them again for another 5 years.
Look at you, Marc Dolan. This is a mystery, LA.
No, there are. As I've said to several people, I am not, as we say in Jersey, I'm not the guy. I'm not even the guy who knows the guy. But as a result, I can make educated guesses because I don't have to. Everybody who actually knows something directly from Springsteen or his camp has to shut up about it. So since I don't know anything directly, I can make my educated guesses. There has been some talk of a tour with a small group of musicians, which he almost did twice before. He almost toured on that like that with Tunnel of Love, and he almost did Devils and Dust, which ended up being a solo tour with a group of small musicians. Karen Rose, who we both know, who's been on the show, is campaigning for what she calls the Johnny and June tour, which would be with Patty, which I would love because I love Patty's work. But it would be great to see him with a small group of musicians, and I think he's a little tired of the epicness.
I want to ask you, because you've been out, you did your book tour, book signing thing, which, if you get a chance to see Marc, please go see him, because he may actually sing a Bruce song as well. He's very entertaining. But while you were out there meeting people, did you find anyone ever challenge you on a question that you really kind of had to think about and say, I don't know now?
Well, I mean, people will ask you odd questions, and I mean, there were so many moments from that. I mean, the nicest thing has been twice I actually met people who were, knew Bruce or knew. When I did at well, first of all, when you do a reading of a Springsteen biography at the Monmouth Mall, and the staff says to you as you set up, "Oh yeah, Bruce and Patty come in here all the time." So you're doing a reading in a store where your subject shops, and that's strange enough anyway. But afterwards, this older woman came by, and she had been flipping through the book while I was doing the reading, and she said, "My name's Jacqueline Alfano." Now, if you hear Jacqueline Alfano, that means nothing to most of you, but I'm saying, Alfano, your husband was the organist in Bruce's high school band. And she said, flipping through it, she said I was the first person who got it right. So that was fantastic. The most fun thing about doing this for the last year has been, I never would have thought I would have talked about one artist to people in 3 countries over the course of a year. And the biggest thing you find out is that every Bruce album is someone's favorite and someone's least favorite. And like if you go to in Ireland, I did 3 interviews in Ireland and 1 reading. All they listen to is post-92 stuff. So in other words, you'll hear people who say Secret Session is their favorite album. You'll hear people say, Ghost of Tom Joad is their favorite album. They're not that into Darkness. So it's an interesting to see, but everybody hates some album and loves some album, and they're all different. So you get your alt fans who are big Nebraska people, and then it's an interesting biz.
Speaking of, you have your Norwegian version. This is very interesting. How is the Norwegian edition different?
The Norwegian edition has, well, first of all, it's in Norwegian. Second,
we will not be doing a reading.
It has, or a very entertaining reading, as the case may be. It has color photos in the middle. I've been fascinated throughout this because it took 6 months after I finished the book to negotiate the various rights. And so we had real problems with photographs. There were only like 6 photographs in this book. They evidently negotiate better than I do because they have 20 color photographs in the middle. And it's also got like a lovely little flap with a timeline. It is in Norwegian and it doesn't have the new chapter. And it's also interesting that what they did was they took all my lovely 45 pages of endnotes and put them up on a website so that people wouldn't be burdened by them.
I think we're missing something here.
Exactly. Well, no, that's the thing, is that, like, why are there all these endnotes? Well, to prove to you.
But without those, I wouldn't learn cool facts like you have quite a collection of bootlegs. Favorite?
I believe favorite, got to be the first one I ever had. Second Night at Winterland, 1978. It's an extraordinary concert. I mean, another one would be the Christmas concert I talked about in 2000. Another one would be, he did a concert in Somerville, Massachusetts in early 2003, just during a break in the Rising Tour as a fundraiser for a magazine. And he's talking to the audience all the way through. And he's explaining how he wrote the song. He does a step-by-step explication of Does This Bus Stop at 82nd Street? And he talks about like how he puts a set list together. He talks about, it's very fun and very open.
Very cool. And I have to say that one of the reviews of your book, which I thought was great, describing it so well, is that this book really draws you in to the music. And it's different in the sense of the Bruce book
Yeah.
by Peter Ames Carlin, which is another great book, but yours is different. And it draws you in and you start to feel like you're part of the story as well.
Well, thank you. I mean, I had a very out-of-body experience reading Carlin's book because it's the book I decided about a month in I didn't want to write. So it was great to see somebody else write that book.
That was a bear.
But that's the thing is that, in other words, there's all these personal angles that are, if you read between the lines, are in this book. But about a month in, I was thinking about the motorcycle accident he had when he was a teenager, and I was going to reconstruct it. I was going to go into the court records, and then I realized what I really wanted to do was look at set lists. So it became set list archaeology rather than this girlfriend, that girlfriend, etc. And it's two different stories.
And it's a great one. It's Bruce Springsteen and The Promise of Rock and Roll, now in paperback with a brand new chapter. Thank you so much, Marc.
Thank you for having me.